What's up guys, it's Xyz here, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we are updating Pendulums. Once again, the new ban list has given us back more cards, and with the release of Dimension Force, we got the long-awaited Beyond the Pendulum Link Monster, and now it feels like that Pendulums are getting to somewhat of the point they were before, but not quite because Electromite is still banned, but at least Konami is trying to compensate for the fact that they have completely butchered the deck in the past. So now, let's see once again how the deck evolved with the new cards that it got back from the ban list and the new cards that got released as well. And this deck just feels like that it always is waiting to get the correct amount of cards it requires in order to be able to dominate the meta, because it does have a really powerful strategy. Everyone knows that Pendulums is considered one of the most unfair mechanics in the game, and for good reason. So yeah, let's see exactly how the deck is right now. So before we begin the video, if you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and now let's get to the deck profile. So starting off the monsters, we have 3 copies of Performable Skullcrobat Joker. This is the main normal summon of the deck. On summon, it searches you a Performapal or a Magician from your deck. It can search you an Odd Eyes card as well, but we don't play any in this deck. So yeah, this card is the main guy you want to be normal summoning. And now, with the release of the new ban list, this card has the best possible search target it could get with 1 copy of Performapal Monkey Board. Oh boy, this card makes Joker such a better card. It's the reason that this card was banned is because of Joker, that you could basically search your normal summon and a 1-card scale because of Monkey Board. So what this card does is that if you don't have a performable card in your other Pendulum zone, it becomes a scale 4, so you want to always have another performable card in your zone, because this is a rank 4 base spam deck, so it's not like you can do much if this becomes scale 4 and you can Pendulum summon level 4 monsters, and once per turn you can search a level 4 low performable monster from your deck to your hand. So this card by itself is going to search you Joker, and then Joker is going to search you the other scale, or the other way around. You're going to normal summon your Joker, you're going to search your Monkey Board, and this card is going to search you your scale 8. So with 1 card, you get a monster on the field and you get full scale, which is absolutely amazing. And the card you're going to be searching for most of the time to complete your scale is the 1 copy of Performapal Celestial Magician. This card is amazing because it's a Performapal, it's a Magician, it's a level 4 Dark Spellcaster, and it's a scale 8. Its Pendulum effect is not the greatest thing. It's an effect that helps you revive Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monsters when they are destroyed by destroying this card. Its on-field effect is much better because when you Pendulum summon it, you're going to get a search during the end phase, so you can basically get a follow-up. But the thing is, now with Monkey Board, this card is going to see itself in the scale much more often than it did before, because you want to be destroying your double iris in the scale, so it's not like you're going to have a scale 8 100% of the time. So basically this card is the follow-up, so you can get to another Pendulum summon during the next turns. And yeah, being able to search this with Monkey Board and Joker makes it so amazing. You can play 1 more performable monster. We play 1 copy of Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer. This is another card that you can search with Joker and Monkey Board, and that will help you destroy your scales, because destroying cards like Purple Poison and Double Iris is really important in this deck, so having a searchable target that can do that is really important as well. But you don't really want to play more than 1 copy of this card because it can contradict Pendulum Call. There will be hands where Pendulum Call is going to make your plays much more different than what they would be if you did not activate Pendulum Call, so you don't want to see multiple copies of a card that pops scales and does just that in a hand where you have your Pendulum Call active. For the Magicians, we have 3 copies of Harmonizing. This card is by far the best Magician card. It gets you to another monster on the field. It is a 1 card rank 8, it's a 1 card rank 4. It's an amazing card, basically giving you access to Savage Dragon, Baguska, Tornado Dragon, Time Star. Yeah, this card does basically anything you want it to, and you have to max it out 100%. We play 3 copies of Double Iris. This card is the monster you're going to be setting on your scale in the first turn 100% of the time, because you want to pop it and then get access to your Pendulum Graphs. The Pendulum Graphs give you tempo, they give you disruption, and this card basically also can combo with some other cards, because this deck is very good at not only making a really good board turn 1, but also pressuring for OTK turn 2, because it has like niche effects like this one where it can double your damage, and you have other effects that can halve the attack of an opponent's monster, so it's very easy to push through boards and also deal big damage with this deck. We play 3 copies of Off Dragon. Now this card serves 2 purposes. First, it's a card that you want to see in the scale a lot of the times, because like the Performapal Magician, it gives you a follow-up. You can add a Magician from your extra deck to your hand every single turn, and this is one thing that Pendulums kind of struggle sometimes, because if you don't have follow-up, you're going to use your entire hand turn 1, and if your board gets cracked, then you can't do much because you can only Pendulum summon 1 from the extra deck in the extra monster zone. So you want to be able to keep at least a couple cards in your hand for the next turn in case your opponent finds an out to your board. But also this card is a level 6, so you can summon it from the deck with your Harmonizing Magician to go and put on the floor, and this is how this deck can play around Nibiru as well. Nibiru is not the most relevant hand drop in this format, but some people might play it, and being able to play around it makes the deck even more better. We play 3 copies of Wisdom Eye Magician. Of course, this card gets you to any scale skill you need. And when you don't have Pendulum Call, this card becomes either a low skill or a high skill. And when you have Pendulum Call, it's just another monster you can Pendulum summon from your hand and get another monster on board. For the one-offs, we play one copy of Purple Poison. This card is here to deal with floodgates. Eldritch is still a very relevant deck, and Skill Drain can destroy a lot of those combo-type decks, so you need to have at least one copy of this card, which you can search in a lot of different ways, being either Pendulum Call, your Joker, your Wisdom Eye, and you can pop it to destroy floodgates, which can be really important. We play one copy of Black Fang. I like this card. This is another high skill that you can play, and when you combine this card with cards like Double Iris, their Pendulum effects, basically you can deal big damage with this card because you are going to have the attack of an opponent's monster, and you're going to double the damage you're going to do with one of your own monsters with Double Iris, and you can do a lot. Also, this card can help you play around Solemns as well, because if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a dark spellcaster in your grave and special summon it. So if you know what you're doing with this deck, sometimes you can even play around cards like Solemn Strike and Solemn Judgment on your Pendulum summon. So this is why I love Magicians. They're just so resilient, and they don't lose to the typical stuff that other Pendulum decks lose to. They have outs to pretty much anything, so this is why I love how they work. We play one copy of Astrograph. Konami, please give us back more copies of this card. Without Electromite, it's not something that is going to be really broken, but alas, we only have one copy still. But yes, still an amazing card. You can search with your Time Star and then basically get a free plus. Being level 7 right now is not the most relevant thing because we don't play Vortex and Absolute anymore to go into that combo. We just have it for an extra body on board to go for link plays. Now, for the extenders, we play 3 copies of Chronograph Sorcerer. This card gets you to a Time Star from the deck, so this can basically serve 2 purposes. The first one is the one everyone knows, which basically can get you to another extender on the field, and now with Beyond the Pendulum, we are back to the point where we really want to make a link summon before we Pendulum summon, just like back in the day with Electromite. I mean, we did want to do that before with Masquerade or something like that, but now we actually have a really good dedicated Pendulum link monster we strive to make before we Pendulum summon, so we can get the most amount of pluses, so all those extenders help with that. But the thing is, this one copy of Time Gazer Magician right here that you're summoning with your Chronograph has an effect that most people don't know about, and this can help you play around more cards that other Pendulum decks just can't play around. So it says that each turn, the first cards in your Pendulum zone that will be destroyed by a card effect, it is not destroyed. So this deck can play around even cards like Conquistador being able to pop your high skill or something like that. If you keep this on the field and you have other ways to go into Beyond the Pendulum before you Pendulum summon, you can basically protect one of your scales as well. So yeah, this card can protect you from Twin Twisters because it sets cards. You don't really need to protect only one. If they both try to get destroyed at the same time, you can protect them both. So yeah, this deck can play around even backward removal as well. We played 2 copies of Curtain Raiser. Yep, this is just another extender. It's a dark spell, it's a dark fiend, so it's a dark monster, so you can go into the dark charmer with this, so it gets you to other good monsters, because Beyond the Pendulum is a really good card, but the thing is, you don't really want to tunnel vision on this, especially going second, because the dark charmer in some scenarios can be way more useful going second than Beyond the Pendulum, just because of how good its effect is and how generic the dark attribute is in the game. We played 2 copies of Tuning Magician. This is another card that basically gets you another extender, and what I like about this card is that basically it's kind of the replacement of Darkworm back in the day when you were discarding Darkworm Pendulum Call and felt like the most plus thing in the world. This is basically the same thing because it's another monster that can get itself out from the deck, from the graveyard, I mean, when you have both Magicians in your Pendulum zones. It's a tuner, so you can summon it with Needle Fiber from the deck to get you more monsters on the field, and it's a Magician monster, so what more can you ask for? We play 2 copies of Magician Souls. Having Chronograph in the deck means that we can always have access to this card, and this can help you basically get rid of excess copies of cards like Pendulum Call and Duelist Alliance, because the only way you can break with a deck like this is if you draw multiple copies of a lot of cards, especially the spell cards that are once per turn, and you want to max them out because they're so good, but when you draw multiples of them, then you can't really do much with them. But this is where this card comes in, so you can basically send them to the grave to draw more cards, and 99% of the time you're going to draw into Pendulum cards, so you can get more plays. And this card is also searchable with your Time Star Magician, so it's not like you're relying on an unsearchable 1 of or a 2 of to play in a deck like this. You can play 1, but I like 2 because hard drawing this sometimes is really good, because Beyond the Pendulum is not like Electromite. Her materials are even more free than Electromite's because she doesn't require 2 Pendulum monsters. It requires 2 effect monsters, including a Pendulum, so you can use Magician Soul, Tuning Magician, and any non-Pendulum extender you want, along with a Pendulum monster to make Beyond the Pendulum as well. The last monster of the deck is 1 copy of Artifact Scythe. This card and Dagda did not get hit, so yes, we're still going to use them. We don't have easy access to Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer anymore, but this deck can make cards like Tornado Dragon, it can search cards like the Time Pendulum Graph, so you have other ways to be able to consistently pop this card and basically lock your opponent out of the extra deck for the turn. For the spell cards, we have 3 copies of Pendulum Call, amazing card searching you both of your scales. When you discard your Tuning Magician, it feels such a good plus because you basically get a free discard for this card, and this is what you want to do most of the time. We played 3 copies of Duelist Alliance. This card not only searches Pendulum Call, but it has other good searches to sell as well. I mean, being able to search Double Iris Colorless and Pendulum Sorcerer already is good enough with this card to max it out. So even if you are not maxing out on Pendulum Call, because I know that Pendulum Call sometimes can feel a bit wanky just because of the way it interacts with the Magicians and the Scales, that you cannot activate any of their effects before you activate Pendulum Call, and that you cannot pop them afterwards to basically use effects of Double Iris, Wisdom Eye, and all that. So yeah, even if you're not maxing out on Pendulum Call, please max out on Duelist Alliance because it's such an amazing card. It can also search your Pendulum Graphs, so you don't even have to rely on your Double Iris sometimes. And speaking of the Pendulum Graphs, we have one copy of Star Pendulum Graph, which is basically another way you can play around cards that destroy your cards, so you can get other cards in your hand and basically keep playing. It's an amazing card. And we also play one copy of Time Pendulum Graph, which is another main disruptor of the deck. It can help you get multiple pops if you combine this with your Time Star, being able to protect your Magicians and the Scales, so you can send a card to the grave, or if you pop your Purple Poison. And the reason you play only one of each is because we don't play Desires in the deck. If you don't go for the Artifact Scythe route, then I would definitely recommend playing Desires in the deck because it's now at 2, so you're going to see it sometimes, not all the times, but it's much better than being at 1, which we'll never see it pretty much. So yeah, if you play Desires, then I would highly recommend playing multiple copies of both Pendulum Graphs because you're going to miss them out if you banish them. Now let's go to the extra deck. First we have the fresh Link Monster, one copy of Beyond the Pendulum. This card does its best at replacing Electromite. It's still not the same, but it's something out of nothing. So basically what this card does is that I mentioned that it does not even require 2 Pendulum monsters, it requires including a Pendulum monsters and 2 effect monsters, so you basically mean that you can make it with a Pendulum or an effect monster. Of course you can make it with 2 Pendulums as well, which is going to be what you're going to be doing most of the time, but this is why a card like Magician's Souls is such a good card in the deck, because it's an extender that gets you draws and can get you into this card. So if this card is Link Summon in the extra monster zone, you can pay 1200 life points to add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, but for the rest of this turn, unless you Pendulum Summon after this effect resolves, you cannot activate monster effects, and the effects of any cards in your Pendulum zones and effects of any card in your Pendulum zones are negated. So you want to Pendulum Summon, and after you do, you basically have free range to do pretty much anything you want. The thing is, this card helps you build your skills on top of having Monkey Board back. It gives you such an easy access to any skill you want in the deck. It's such an amazing card. And the effect that locks you into effects that you cannot activate any effects before you Pendulum Summon doesn't matter too much, because this card's purpose is to basically give you the correct scale, and then once you Pendulum Summon, you can activate Harmonizing, you can pop your Double Iris to search your Pendulum Graphs, and you can do whatever you want. It also has another effect that says that if 2 monsters with different original levels are Pendulum Summon at the same time, this card to the zones this card points to, you can target 2 cards on the field and you destroy them. So this is why having multiple copies of cards like Chronograph and Oath Dragon helps, because you can trigger this effect. And this does not destroy only cards your opponent controls, it destroys cards you control as well. So you can pop Black Fang, you can pop your Purple Poison, you can pop your Double Iris, you can do a lot of stuff with this card. So it's good going first and going second. It gets you to the skill you want, it gets rid of cards. Amazing card overall. We play one copy of Crystal Hulky Fibrax, again another card that's pretty standard in Pendulum. Being able to get access to your Tuning Magician from the deck means that you can go into Selene, and then you can go into Access Code, basically push for game. Really good card. And also Hulky Fibrax now gives you another way of popping your Artifact Scythe, because without Enforcer we are forced to play Wonder Magician now to make Artifact Scythe as consistent as possible. We play the one copy of Artifact Dagda, dodge the ban list, so we're still gonna use it. It's an amazing card that can basically outright win you games by itself. We play one copy of Dark the Dark Charmer. Being able to get to this card, even without DP being so relevant in the format anymore, still the Dark attribute is so relevant in any type of format we play. So yeah, this card is going to be amazing in a lot of games. We play one copy of Lina the Light Charmer. This is another card that you can very easily summon with cards like Wisdom Eye being light attribute, and yes, Dark and the Light are the most common attributes in Yu-Gi-Oh! So being able to summon the Charmers very consistently in any deck means that you can get free ranged Link Climb to cards like Selene, which can then bring you back one of your Magician's Souls or your Tuning Magician to get access to either an Appaloosa going first, which can get you to more negates, or the one copy of Access Code going second, which can basically help push for game. For the Xyz monsters, we have one copy of Time Star. This card is amazing. This card searches you basically anything you need. It can search you your Astrograph, it can search you your Magician's Souls, it can combo with your Time Pendulum Graph to protect your scales to basically get a Destruction and Ascend with your Time Pendulum Graph, and you can also bring it back with your Black Fang from the graveyard. This card is absolutely ridiculous. It gives you such a free range to basically search what the rest of the deck can't, because you cannot search Magician's Souls with your Beyond the Pendulum because it's not a Pendulum monster, but you can search it with this card to get rid of extra copies of spells that you don't need in your hand, draw more cards, get an extender. Amazing card. We play one copy of Tornado Dragon. This is here mainly to pop Scythe, but if you run into Eldritch on any type of control deck, this is a really good Xyz you can make regardless. We play one copy of Baguska. This is the Despia killer. This card, Despia do not have an easy out against this card unless they hard draw a card that can out it, for example, like a Droplet or a Dark Ruler No More or something like that, because they don't play Link monsters. With Anaconda Band, especially now, they play 15 fusion monsters in the extra deck, so they have no way of dealing with this card. So yeah, this card is much better than a Beast Dweller in this format. other formats, maybe you can replace this card with Abyss Dweller, but right now Dweller doesn't do much, and this card against Despia does basically everything. And we play one copy of Zeus because indeed, in any deck that you play Xyz monsters, you play this card so you can protect your monster by being destroyed by battle, or you can attack directly and then get this powerhouse of a body on the field. And for the Synchro monsters, we play one copy of TG Wonder Magician, a card that basically enables you Scythe, so you can use Fiber to destroy your own Scythe, or again, if you're playing against a back row deck and you don't really care for Scythe, at least you can pop one of your opponent's back row, so it's not a bad card overall. One copy of Savage Dragon. This card became much better because we have more dedicated link monsters now that we can summon, and then after we link them away for another link monster, then we basically get a link monster in the graveyard to get a Savage on the field and be able to use its effect, because before we didn't really have a consistent way of getting a link monster in the graveyard, and the monster that we were using basically was Artemis, so this card would get only one counter, which I feel like was very, very bad way of using Savage. But now thankfully we have a really good plethora of link 2s we can make, including Beyond the Pendulum, so we can at least get 2 counters on this card, because using Artemis on this card first felt so bad. You basically use it for a negate and it was just a sitting duck for the rest of the game. And we play one copy of Around the Floor. Yeah, again, another card that can pop your own scales if you want to pop your double Iris. It's a negate that can help you play around Nibiru and everything else. It's a level 10, so it's very easy to summon with Harmonizing and Off Dragon. And again, it basically gives you another follow-up because you can then put back during your standby phase to bring back a monster from the graveyard to keep going from there. So yeah, Pendulums have just evolved one more time, and I feel like the thing is about this deck, we just keep getting more cards every single ban list for God knows how many ban lists now. So now we can expect cards like Kirin or Flashfire to come back, then who knows, maybe this deck can become even more powerful, especially with Kirin. I would love to see how that would go. So yeah, we'll wait and see exactly what Konami plans on bringing back, because we know by now that Electromite is the one card that Konami does not plan on giving us back Pendulum-wise, but everything else is up for grabs, and who knows, maybe we get even the most broken cards that we've been waiting for, just like Kirin and Plushfire, that can help you play multiple versions of the deck, or basically give you more extenders, more disruptions, and so on and so forth. So yep, that's the deck, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and we'll see you next time.